Welcome back to Better Than Before. I'm your host, Tony Richards, and today we have Amy Suzanne joining us as a special guest. She has a Bachelor of Broadcast Journalism degree from the University of Missouri. She has a passion for telling the Made in Missouri story and celebrating the state's manufacturing community. Throughout her career, she has shared the stories of many Missouri manufacturers in several high-profile mediums, including Fortune Magazine, Forbes 30 Under 30, Area Business Development, Trade and Industry Magazine, Site Selection, Motor Trend, CNBC, and Auto Week. And with today's ever-changing communications tools, she champions Missouri enterprises' social media accounts, sharing news about Missouri manufacturing companies, tips on how to increase efficiency and productivity, latest state, national, and international developments that could impact manufacturing, and a bunch of helpful videos. Amy, I'm so glad you're with us today.
Thank you. That was a mouthful. So I appreciate you paying attention to every single part of my bio. I know we have more to cover, but thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to join you today.
Yeah, when I get introduced at a speaking engagement and they read my bio, I'm like, I'm exhausted just hearing about it.
Exactly.
I feel like I just relived it all, just all of a sudden. Now, you're Missouri homegrown, right? Tell me about your upbringing, your background, and that sort of thing.
Sure. Well, I'm from St. Louis, so your next question would be, which high school did you go to, right?
Right.
That is popular for the St. Louis residents there. So I went to Pattonville High School, knew I had a passion for storytelling. I was one of the first pirate TV reporters, so every morning when you turn your television on in the school, if you're in your math classroom or shop classroom, you would see my face, and I got to interview the head football coach to the biology teacher about what was happening. And I loved meeting people, and I loved learning the individual stories, and everyone has one.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then another thing I wanted to ask you that I didn't include when I was reading your bio is that...
You missed something?
Well,
What?
I did. I missed a couple of things, but I wanted to bring them up separately. I thought this was interesting. You taught English in China. So what's the story there?
Well, so I wanted to be an international reporter, and to do that, you really need to get out of your comfort zone, and you need to meet people that may not even speak your language, and that's exactly where I went. I went to Xi'an, China. It is one of the oldest parts of the country, and they have very limited opportunities to learn English. So I said, well, if I'm going to go anywhere, I'm going to go there. I met, I think, the two people in the entire city that could speak English. One of them was another English teacher that it was very difficult to understand his English. And the other one was a tour guide, of course. Those were my two best friends, and that's how I figured out how to operate and work there. But it was, as soon as I landed, I found a little place that I thought was homey. It was a shopping mall. I didn't have on there that I like fashion, but that is something that I loved, looking at all the different clothing and where it's made. And so I would start collecting business cards and figuring out how to get to where I wanted to go. So I'd hand it to my taxi driver, and then after a couple weeks, I figured out that, hey, they're taking me 15 minutes outside of my driving route. And so I would yell, Yogwe, Zogwe, Chizo, and I could tell them right, left, straight.
Right.
But it was such a neat experience to go somewhere where you don't know anybody, you don't know the language, and figure it out.
Was it as crowded as I imagined?
It is crowded. In Xi'an, they do not have the limited family regulation there, so you can have as many children as you like. So it was definitely crowded, a lot of smog. I had a white coat that I brought with me by mistake, I would say, and it came back yellow when I came home, so that I no longer have that coat. But I would say more than anything, it was meeting these children and these families that, unlike America, where you can kind of earn your own stars based on how hard you work, and how dedicated you are to education, that you can earn your education as time goes on. You can earn scholarships to pay for your school. There, you have to start out where your family pays for you to go to school. And then when you go to secondary school or go to college, then that's where the government can help pay for it. So at first hand, you think, oh, wow, they can go to college for free, essentially. Well, you have to come from a family that can start paying for you to go to kindergarten or early elementary. So I learned that they value education so much there. And these kids, rather than working on the farm or working in the factory, like possibly their neighbors or other kids that they knew, They were in school all day, and then they took my English class after school, being in school all day, and they were so excited to be there. I literally, when I left, had parents come to me crying and asking for their kids to translate to say, thank you, Miss Amy, for teaching my children how to learn English.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so all of this media background and all of this led you on this journey to eventually come to Missouri Enterprise. And you mentioned you have a passion for storytelling. Tell me the story of Missouri Enterprise, the mission, the purpose, everything it does.
Sure. Well, every single state has a Missouri Enterprise. They may have different names, but they're all part of the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. That is a dedicated advocate for manufacturing in every single state. We are strategically aligned with the federal government, Department of Commerce, as well as the Missouri Department of Economic Development, and we work to support their goals and specifically support manufacturing in our respective states. To do that, we attempt to address the many challenges that they have. How do we get to that root of the problem, taking a holistic approach? For instance, workforce solutions. You mentioned millennials and workforce, and yes, I am very passionate, and it is something that we continue seeing as an issue. When we go into manufacturing companies and say, what's the big thing you're working with, or what's your major obstacle? And they all say, we can't find workers. And you hear that in every industry.
You bet.
But of course, manufacturing is our focus. And we can't just go and grow people in our backyards and say, okay, well, in 6 months, give us 6 months and these people are going to be ready for you. We'll send them your way.
Sure.
You can't do that. What we have to do is approach it, like I said, from multiple areas and avenues. And one thing that we really look at is leadership. I know, again, that's not helping right there directly. It's not a quick fix, but what we find is that these millennials, or even any worker, between the first and 4 first days of their job, they'll find out if that's the right fit.
Absolutely.
Right then and there. So if you do not have a good mentorship program, if you do not set the expectations for that position, give them thorough guidance and instructions, they feel lost, overwhelmed already, and then you just leave them to it and expect something from them that they don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if you get ghosted and they just don't come back to work the next day.
It's like the first day of school.
It is.
Right? You're just trying to find the homeroom or the bathroom or
exactly. So leadership is one thing. Another is using, like you said, cobots and robots. I know we're going to cover that, but how do we fill some of these jobs that no one wants anymore? I remember working with a manufacturer recently, and he said, Jan's been here for 30 years and she's retiring next month, and she does the same thing every day for 30 years. How can I find a Jan? Yeah. And I said, you're not going to find a Jan to do that job because no one wants to do that same job.
We may actually need 2 people for Jan.
Exactly. Right? But have you thought about pulling in a cobot or a robot? Something that can take the place of Jan for those jobs that are dirty or dangerous and no one wants to do.
Now, for the benefit of our audience, and quite frankly, for my benefit, tell me what a cobot is.
Sure. I love this question. So cobot is a collaborative robot. What that means is it's not in a cage. A robot is in a cage. You cannot work alongside it. If you accidentally grab a nut or bolt next to it or walk in front of it, it will continue moving, whether you move out of the way or not. Now, a cobot will not. A cobot, you can work right next to it. I actually can show you a video of me programming a cobot in 5 seconds from an iPad to high-five me.
Oh, wow.
So it touched me and it let go and was programmed to do point A, point B, and back again. Huh. So it's something that you can unplug from the wall. It's on its own table. You can move it around. So if you want it to do Jan's job, let's just say for 2 hours, and then it was more productive. It doesn't have sick days. It's not gossiping. It doesn't have.
Does it talk back?
It does not talk back. Exactly. And you can move it and then hook it up again, plug it in, and then it could start working on other functions. So it's a collaborative a robot where it can work with others.
So how much penetration in today's workforce do cobots and robots have?
I would say, I don't have the exact figures, but it's something I could share in a follow-up. Oh. However, I do know that we are lagging significantly behind other countries, such as ding, 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 China.
I see. Okay.
I was recently with HTE Technologies, which is a company based in St. Louis that sells cobots and robot solutions. And the CEO said, Amy, I was in China not that long ago, and I walked into a manufacturing plant. You would never have guessed it was a manufacturing plant because it did not have any doors or hallways or walkways. It had tiny little, 2-foot, possibly high doorways for the cobots and robots to enter in and out. It was all done in the dark, and it was all done by machines.
Wow. Like doggy doors for
Exactly.
automation.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So we are definitely behind in that. And it's something that we need to figure out, how can we get these solutions in the hands of our Missouri manufacturers so they can compete now and in the future.
I just want one that'll high five me, I think. Now you sold me. I come in every morning.
I named her Coco. She's going to come here actually to Columbia, Missouri this summer. So maybe I can make that introduction.
Coco. Well, that's cool. So about millennials, let's just kind of go down that path. So, you hear that a lot, I get called a lot of times by organizations to come in and do a workshop or a seminar and about the different generations in the workforce. And I noticed that you've written about that. How do you see that? I know we've got the generation after the millennials that are coming up here pretty soon. So
we don't even know how to handle those.
We'll have to stop picking on the millennials here pretty soon.
Exactly. So. And that's one thing I do try to challenge our manufacturers with when they sigh and groan and roll their eyes when I tell them it's not the millennials that have to change, you guys. It's you. It's us.
Right.
Because they're not going to change. They don't have to. That's the thing that we have to realize as companies, employers. We need these workers. We cannot find workers. And not just manufacturing, but any kind of organization. And the second thing to know is they don't need us, but we need them. These folks are not, their American dream is different than ours. Our American dream may have been to get a great job that we could pay for our children to go to school. We can have that house with a dog and a boat, maybe on the weekends, and a lake house. Like, that's the dream.
Right.
They don't want that. They want to live downtown near their home. They don't want to have a car. And if they do have a car, it needs to have the coolest tech ever. They don't want to necessarily own a home. So who knows what this is going to do to the real estate industry, all the vacant homes that may just sit there because our American dream is different than theirs.
Right.
So I'd say we really want to bridge that conversation and try to prepare manufacturers to know that those benefits even need to look different. Not to say healthcare isn't important. It absolutely is important. But if you say, hey, would you rather have dental care, or would you rather have unlimited iPhone upgrades as part of your fringe benefit package? You may have some say, I want that tech every year, right?
Right, sure.
Because mom and dad have made sure that brushing my teeth and taking care of myself has been a big priority in our household. And maybe I still live at home, so having certain perks or benefits to the job aren't as important to me. But coming in at 10 a.m. and working to 7 p.m., having a flexible schedule is important to me.
I think it's about, like you said, I think it's about learning about the mindset.
What drives
changes.
them.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of conversations with CEOs, and their favorite one is, the millennials just aren't motivated.
Right.
And I'm always saying, you know what? I'm on the edge of the baby boomers to going over into the next generational label. And I worked for my grandfather, and I don't think he thought I was very motivated at that
Sure.
age either. I mean, I think it's just a common thing is that we never think the younger people are as motivated as we are.
Oh, goodness. Yes. They just don't want to work. They don't want to work. And what we found when working with these millennials to bridge that gap and discuss with them, they absolutely want to work hard. It's just how to get them motivated. It's a different bag. It absolutely is. Gamification is a really big thing for them. And I know all you listeners out there that are on your phone and you hear that ding on your phone, that's just your phone gamifying you.
That is brain candy.
Exactly. So how can we use that philosophy to encourage them to work hard rather than saying, here's this big project and you have a whole year to do it? Now, a baby boomer may take that apart upon themselves, come up with an outline and how we're going to do this step one and blah, blah, blah to get it there. And they will get it done. If you hand that to a millennial, they're going to wait to the very last minute to get that done, right? They will. They'll get it done, but they're going to kill themselves just to get it done. Now, if you say, here's what I want you to do in step one, and here's the time you have to do it. Here's step two. And in step two, we're going to have not not necessarily a party, not necessarily everybody wins award, but it's just even something to recognize you. Here's the plant that you get. Here's a plant that we get to put on your desk or your cubicle, and everyone knows that you are growing. You are doing better each and every time. Just something small as that to recognize them and giving them, again, one miniature project versus you have a whole year to do it. That works better.
Let me see if you agree with this, because this thought just hit me. When I was a younger person, I would gamify situations, but I think my generation did it mentally, where I think maybe this generation has to do it physically, where it needs to be external. Because we had to entertain ourselves. We didn't have some of the things. We didn't have the cell phones and the smartphones and I'm a product of Pong, or Atari or when it first came out, or Pac-Man. But I think, and especially if you were in athletics at all, which I was, your whole life kind of centered around games. But I think millennials or younger generation, that we have it's just changed. The technology's changed, and I think it needs to be more external with not, and I put these words out there very softly, but a little reward and punishment for playing the game, right?
Exactly.
Like the little ding on your phone. Like I always say that when somebody gets a text and they hear that familiar sound, it's almost like their brain says, somebody loves me.
Exactly.
Or
someone cares.
Somebody wants to communicate.
I'm alive. Someone knows I'm here listening.
So that leads me down the path of just talking about growing in an organization and excelling and getting promoted. I get asked a lot of times about succession planning in companies. If you're a young, assertive manager today, and you want to get to the executive level, what do you see in the world of work that you're doing that they should focus on, or what skills should they focus on obtaining?
Sure. I think one of the characteristics that continues to dwindle from what we're seeing is really embodying that visionary role. How can you be a big picture thinker? How can you be, if you're a sports analogy, the playmaker? How can you do that? It's not just about, I worked overtime 20 hours this week or whatnot, and I want to make sure my boss knows it. I mean, that's great, but it's not going to last very long. You can only do that for so long before you get completely burnt out. But what are some of those big picture playmaking roles or opportunities that you can come up with and be innovative? It's never going to come to your door. Your boss is never going to say, here's this, you look like you're not busy, here you go, take this and you could be promoted. No, it's understanding, being in tune with what's happening in the company, with the news, finding opportunities of, hey, here's this idea I think we could really grow, and I'd be happy to take it on. I can do it. So being a big picture thinker I think is really important. It also shows that you can be a leader, because those that micromanage are not leaders.
Right.
Let's just say that. If you're a micromanager and you cannot delegate, designate, and then give them expectations, you're not going to be a leader.
Well, there's low trust level there.
Exactly.
Right? And so it causes all sorts of byproducts to happen that are not good when you don't trust.
Correct.
Right. What about the events? I know you guys do a lot of events throughout the state. So what are a few that you think would be really beneficial for our audience to investigate and maybe check out?
Yeah, so we hammered on the millennial workforce, and that's really exciting. We continue to offer those throughout the state. We talked about Cobots and Robots. Some other ones that we're going to be pushing are those, again, thought-provoking workshops. 3D printing, it's not something new anymore, but it's something you can actually afford and make a piece versus having Jan do it, or maybe a Cobot. You can have something that kind of takes that role. Internet of Things, AI, we'll have a workshop on that. But one other thing I'm really excited about is VR, virtual reality, and how it parlays into workforce training. Let's use this as an example. I successfully recruited you. You're a millennial.
Okay.
Right?
I like the sound
And I'm going
of
to
that.
tell you that we are harnessing technology, because that's another big thing. We are harnessing technology to help improve and continuously improve at our company. So that should be a big ding ding for the millennial as a perk. But I'm going to send you next week your own VR kit that I'm going to give you 2 weeks. Here's links. I'm going to send you an email with all the different things, these study guides that I want you to know how to do when you get here. So it's training, programmatic training, where they can actually put the VR system on and maybe learn how to work a manufacturing machine. Maybe they learn how to do the QuickBooks. Maybe they have a better idea of what the exporting technology or culture is. Whatever it is, they can take that time preparing for the job, and by the time they actually come to work that day, they know how to do it. And if they forget, send them back to the VR and go to the conference room and take 20 minutes. So,
I mean, what does that do for a person's confidence level walking in the first day?
Right.
Feels great.
Exactly. So that's, and all the time and money and expenses, away from the company. They don't have to have someone that's training and mentoring. If we have time to talk about that, I'd love to.
Sure.
But to set aside all that cost and then turnover if it doesn't work out. So if you have someone going in there, like you said, confident, they understand expectations, they know how to work a machine or work whatever computer system that is. Wow. It's a game changer. So that's going to be one of our workshop offerings.
Sure. Well, what are your thoughts about the training then? Do you want to?
Oh, about mentorship. Yeah. So
mentorship.
I throw this concept out at you. I was really excited last week, and I was writing a blog post about millennials and some of the things that we're learning. And I came up with this friendtorship. And then I looked it up, and it's already exists, darn it. I was really hoping that, I could get that yacht and sail away
I was
on
just
the
about
weekends.
to yell trademark.
Exactly. But I'm not. However, friendtorship is another idea or a takeaway of mentorship. So one thing that we learned from these millennial workers is that when they come on the job, they don't want to be paired with someone that's maybe 30 years older than them or had worked there for 30 years. And just because it worked for that person for 30 years does not mean it's going to work for this millennial. So how can we find kind of that cheerleader, that ambassador for the company that's in their generation that you think, hey, maybe we think these two will kick it off. Maybe they'll become friends. So they'll be friendtors. So it's someone that can challenge them, and this person's going to be challenged. So it's that gamification. You bet. It's beautiful. Pulls it all in.
Just thinking
right?
That, yeah.
Exactly. So they're going to accountability. They are going to compete in a positive way. They're going to recognize one another's successes, right? And then they may want to go have coffee or go get cocktails afterwards. And you know how much harder it is for that new person to leave a job if another opportunity comes after they've had a friend tour or a mentor.
Oh, it's in a lot of Gallup polls.
Exactly.
They have a best friend at work.
You got it.
One of the key questions. And those that say yes, their retention levels are higher.
You got it.
Right.
So that's another thing. You may not be able to offer them the moon and back as far as benefits or maybe income, but if you can say we have technology, we fully support a high quality of life and work here at this company, that we establish friendships, that's huge for them. And it makes it less scary. They're confident going in. And if they could see someone they can relate to and say, hey, if they can do it and they love it here, I think I can too.
So as Director of Communications for Missouri Enterprise, what's your biggest goal for this year?
I would say just further establishing those partnerships. We do a great job working with our local chambers, local economic development organizations, community colleges, but just really being seen as that partner in manufacturing and challenging our manufacturers. That's our big thing is, you guys cannot just face these challenges on your own. We want to be there. We want to have our finger in the pulse, and we want to push you. We want to challenge you as you face your challenges. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is going to be thinking, well, I don't roll eye rolls. I get a lot of eye rolls and sighing. But at the end of the conversation, they say, we know we need to change. We know we have to. And we do. We all have to change together, but we're here with you.
Well, while I have you here, just let me tap into your expertise just a little bit more in the communications and marketing area, just for the benefit of our audience. What do you think works really well? You mentioned storytelling. What do you think really works well in spreading the message for someone in 2019?
From a company's perspective?
Yeah.
Sure. If you're utilizing social media, please, please, please do not forget that this is social media. This isn't business media. If you want business media, read the business news or
Right.
business journal. This is social media. So one thing that I would say, if you are a corporation or a business or even nonprofit, in order to connect with people, you have to connect with people. This is the people business. So you can find ways to tell your story, tell your client's story by featuring people and having people talk. They don't have to be scripted all the time.
Right.
And that's the journey I think is interesting, is if you have this more candid conversation. That's what all the viral videos are about. They don't want to have someone at a news desk anymore perfectly reading the news. They want firsthand experience. They want to have that GoPro. And you can harness those same types of tactics to tell your story by, showing something being made. This other thing is kind of interesting to me. This whole satisfying. Have you heard that before?
Yes.
It's so satisfying. So I have a 13-year-old, and I mean, she's in school all day, and then she gets on her phone and she has her social media. And usually by the evening, after she's had piano or dance or whatever it is, she just wants to veg out watching these satisfying videos of bars of soap being, cut up or smashed, or bubble poppers being popped. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I think it's because they've become so desensitized from everything coming at them in so many different formats that they look for that something calming and repetitive, that same thing. So I've just kind of tested it, but I'll go into a manufacturing plant, and if I see like stickers rolling off the roll or something being at a food manufacturing, those big vats being stirred up, and I'll just take 30 to 45 seconds of that on Instagram. It is, and I'll hashtag, is this satisfying?
Right.
How many people will watch that and click on it?
I mean, we've had plenty of rain this year, but I will do thunderstorms and rain. I will do the ocean. Right. I just do it for myself. Sure. I think
Aquaman here.
I think it works. It works. Sometimes you have to use something external, right? If your internal noise is to a certain level that you can't get it under control, you have to use something like a playlist of songs or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So for someone who's listened to this interview today and they're thinking, wow, who is
this person?
Well, this organization has a lot to offer me. How can they find out more?
Sure. You just visit MissouriEnterprise.org. Easy as that.
Yep. And how do they follow you? I mean, you write blogs, you're on Twitter, you're on all the social media.
So. Twitter is at Mo Enterprise. Facebook is at Missouri Enterprise. LinkedIn, of course, Missouri Enterprise.
So we've been visiting with Amy Suzanne. She is the Director of Communications and Marketing for Missouri Enterprise. Thank you so much for being a friend, and thanks for coming on today. It's been awesome.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Receive weekly coaching tips from Tony Richards, delivered straight to your inbox. Whether you're a CEO or an entrepreneur, Tony can help you reach your goals and give you a competitive edge within your industry. Tony's Monday Morning Coaching Memo covers topics ranging from leadership development to teamwork to company culture and more. Text the word leadership to 38470 to sign up for Tony's Monday Morning Coaching Memo, or sign up online at clearvisiondevelopment.com.